Today, I want to instantly react to the AP Top 25 rankings for Week 15. And this is the RJ Young Show. Thank you. Appreciate you for being here. If you like the channel, please consider liking and subscribing because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And let's start with a good time because, wow, what looked like a really awful slate for college football yesterday ended up being remarkably fun, like ridiculously fun for all of the insular reasons that we love the sport, right? Among them, there was an Orange Bowl spot on the line, so we think, between Miami and North Carolina. North Carolina waxed Miami. Got to talk a little bit about how Oklahoma, Iowa State might end up being a play-in game for the playoff that's like for real. Ampersand U is still thinking, hey, we got a shot, but the Florida loss might hurt them. USC is going to go into a Pac-12 championship game undefeated. San Jose State is still undefeated. Cincinnati's still undefeated. Buffalo is undefeated, but we only expect like 3 teams that we know about: Ohio State, Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, perhaps, the winner of that, certainly, but maybe all 4 of those. Maybe it doesn't change. Let's go through the AP Top 25 poll before we do this again on Tuesday, going through the college football playoff rankings poll, which ought to be wild ahead of Championship Saturday on December 19th, which I have written like 3,000 words. That'll be over at foxsports.com pretty soon about just the preview and the primer for that weekend. Be sure to go check that out. Probably talk about this on Monday, going through each one of the conference championship games that matter, and really get into this, I think, a robust discussion about playoffs, national champions, and conference champions, along with Selection Sunday, which is going to be a whole lot of fun. So number 1, Alabama, once again, unanimous, the number 1 ranked team in America. They destroy Arkansas 52-3. Devontae Smith is my Heisman winner. I know that there's a lot of y'all that still believe in Kyle Trask, even think Mac Jones is going to win it. It's a pageant award. It's a quarterback award. But the best player in college football this year is Devontae Smith. And if it wasn't him, it'd be Najee Harris. We're really talking about Mac Jones being the 4th best player on his own team if Jalen Waddle is healthy. That's ridiculous. Number 2, Notre Dame, also 10-0. They got the ACC sanctioned bye into the conference championship game next week, where they will play one-loss Clemson. Remember, Notre Dame beat Clemson in South Bend 47-40, but it took them 2 overtimes, even as Clemson was down 3 starters on defense and without Trevor Lawrence. DJ Uiagalelei threw for 439 yards and 2 TDs in that game, so the thinking is Clemson will win the ACC championship game at full strength. But a loss, I think, knocks them out of the playoff. Number 3, Ohio State, still getting tremendous amounts of respect, 5-0. Lost the game, first time that hasn't been played in, I think, since World War II, which sucks. Utterly. Awful. Wrote 3,000 words about that on Thursday at Fox Sports. Be sure to check that out. Some really good stories in there about Jim Harbaugh. Urban Meyer told me some stories about the game from his coaching days. It's a lot of fun. Justin Fields is a monster. Chris Olave is a monster. Garrett Wilson is a monster. At full strength, Ohio State ought to be able to play with anybody in the country. It's about, can they shore up their secondary against good teams. Michigan State is a bad football team. Even though they beat the Big Ten West champ, Northwestern, hand them their only L. Ohio State gets Northwestern on Saturday in the Big Ten championship game. Number 4, Clemson, 9-1 with that 1 loss to Notre Dame. We'll see if they can't get it back against Notre Dame in Charlotte. Texas A&M stays at 5. Their 1 loss is to the number 1 ranked team in the country, and their best win is to that Florida team that was ranked just like right there behind them. And now I can't wait to see where they fall to, because that was a bad LSU team with 33 freshmen among 54 scholarship players available. Marco Wilson goes full shoe game. Golly. And Cade York is nails from 57 yards out. It's like watching Snatch, in which you went up to LSU and you said, look, LSU, you're going down in the 4th. And then LSU, like Mickey, unexpectedly knocks Florida out after Marco Wilson picks up the inexplicable unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. LSU! That's going to be a game that lives forever. Bronze the shoe. Bronze both the shoes. My goodness. Max Johnson getting the W. But Texas A&M is going to have to win, I think, this weekend to give themselves an opportunity to be that 4th best team that gets into the playoff. If they're matched up against Alabama again, it's going to be a rout again. It was 52-17 the last time. I don't think this Texas A&M team got any better. Cincinnati at number 6. They are 8-0. They get Tulsa in the American Championship game at Nippert Stadium in Cincinnati. They could go 9-0 and have an opportunity to claim a national championship at the end of this thing with an undefeated season. That's an interesting game. I can't wait to see who wins that one. Indiana, 6-1, moves to number 7. Their only loss is to Ohio State. No Michael Penix Jr., but Jack Tuttle seems to be about his business. You got Watt Fillier, you got Ty Freifogel, you got Stevie Scott, and you got an outstanding defense. Tom Allen's kids absolutely out there making it happen. Iowa State at number 8. Interesting. They play for a Big 12 championship for the first time in their history with an opportunity to win their first conference championship since 1912. They got to take on Oklahoma to do it. But Iowa State has been surging. They have the loss, right? They also have the loss. The loss is to ULL, who's playing Coastal Carolina in the Sun Belt Conference Championship. And when you know it, Coastal Carolina gets into the top 10 at number 9. They were number 11 in this poll last week. The Chanticleers came from behind to beat Troy on the road in a remarkably cool game I watched on ESPN+. Shout out to the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, who still have an opportunity to go win themselves a claim to a national championship with a Sun Belt championship and then a win in the bowl game. They'll play a good ULL team who was able to knock off the best team in the Big 12 to date, Iowa State, by 17 points at the beginning of the season. Georgia at number 10, 7-2. They dispatched, college football playoff ranked number 25 Missouri, 49-14. Can't imagine what this team might look like if JT Daniels was healthy for the whole year, or just give him a shot to play against Florida, because your losses to Alabama and Florida, and now that Florida loss just doesn't look good. Florida falls to number 11, was 6. Losses to, of course, Texas A&M and now LSU. They will probably play in the Orange Bowl against UNC, we think, if UNC jumps ahead of Miami in the latest rankings, because the way that it works, the Orange Bowl is contractually obligated to put in the highest ranked ACC team. And both of those teams that are Clemson and Notre Dame are playing in the playoff. That falls to the next one, which we would expect to be North Carolina, especially after the way they ran over Miami. Number 12, Oklahoma. They were 13 last week. They go into the Big 12 championship game for the this is going to be their opportunity to win their 6th consecutive Big 12 championship. And Oklahoma has played in the last 4 Big 12 championships. This is going to be 5, dating back to 2010. There was a hiatus where we didn't play the game. Started back up 2017. Oklahoma's won it every year since. So the Sooners are used to going to AT&T Stadium in December, and they're used to getting W's. Number 13, USC. 5-0. Needed to come from behind to beat UCLA in their rivalry game last night. They get Washington in the Pac-12 championship game. Clay Helton getting through a regular season undefeated. Clay Helton might have an opportunity to win his 2nd conference championship, first since 2017. And again, they might have some claim to not just a New Year's Six Bowl, but to a national championship. I mean, they have been playing with fire the whole year. Problem with them is their opponents are combined 7-14. There's not a ranked win among them. The Pac-12 is awful, but USC is the best of it. Brigham Young at 10-1. They beat San Diego State in their last regular season game. Good season for Brigham Young, all things considered. Northwestern at number 15, 6-1. They put the coffin nail in Lovie Smith's career. He was fired earlier this morning after Northwestern ran up 411 yards of rushing on them in a decisive victory for Pat Fitzgerald, who's going to play in his second, or he's going to coach in his second Big Ten championship in 3 years. North Carolina moves from 20 to number 16 with the win against Miami. Just put up 62 points, 554 yards of offense. My favorite fact about this is Manny Diaz got fired by Mac Brown for giving up 550 yards rushing to Brigham Young and Taysom Hill. And then, of course, Mac Brown, Phil Longo, take Michael Carter and Javonte Williams, who were just monsters. 238 yards, I believe, for 236 or 238. I can't remember which, but it's over 200 yards rushing for Javonte Williams and like 308 for Michael Carter. It's awful. Miami might never recover. Got boat raced by Clemson, get boat raced by North Carolina. But all things considered, I think a decent season for what Miami has been and what they want to be. ULL, Lafayette, number 17. They stick at number 17. They'll get Coastal Carolina in the conference championship. Iowa at number 18. They're 6-2. Yeah, man. They've been the second or third best team in the Big Ten since catching their second L. They look really good yesterday against Wisconsin. Miami falls to number 19 after losing to North Carolina in dramatic fashion, devastating fashion. Tulsa moves from number 18. They fall to number 20, which I don't understand. They didn't play, so why are you docking them? Number 21, Texas. They're at 21 after being 23. So Tulsa's 6-1, playing for a conference championship with their only loss coming to Oklahoma State, who was ranked going into their win against Baylor yesterday by the college football playoff rankings. So what are we doing with Tulsa at number 20? They penalized for no reason. Texas, why are you in this? 3 losses. Liberty's 9-1, haven't played in a couple of weeks. So we'll see what that actually means for them going forward. See, number 23, Buffalo, 5-0. Jarrett Patterson has rushed for over 1,000 yards in 5 games. Ridiculous. Lance Leipold, who is the head coach, is now looked at to be perhaps the next coach at Illinois or Vanderbilt or Arizona. We'll see what happens there. North Carolina State, 8-3. I don't know why they're at 24. I guess you had to put somebody there. San Jose State, 6-0. Going to play in the Mountain West Championship against Boise State, and that's going to be fun. That game's going to be played in Vegas. Oklahoma State received votes with 83. Marshall got 47. Boise State got 12. UCF got 11. Washington got 9. They're playing as the Pac-12 North representative at 3-1 against USC. Army at 9. Auburn at 8. Texas Christian at 3. Appalachian State got 1. So I only have problems with docking Tulsa for not playing 2 spots. I think North Carolina was going to move up a little further up, but they're also the highest ranked 3-loss team. I'm glad Georgia's not a top 10 team because I don't think there's room for a 2-loss team not playing in a conference championship game for this ranking. Iowa State also there. They beat Oklahoma, who was ranked, and they are really surging in the right way. I say the right way. I hate talking like a coach. Breece Hall is the best running back outside of the SEC for me. Singular, but like Michael Carter, Javonte Williams might have something to say about that. So we'll see. Mike Freno Mullen, we lost a 5-loss team, and that's why Ohio State shouldn't be in the playoffs. Okay, whatever. RJ, who do you think will win the Big 12 championship between Iowa State and Oklahoma? I mean, it's Oklahoma's conference until somebody chooses to say otherwise or makes it true otherwise. Not going to pick against Oklahoma. It belongs to them. Like, OU has played in the conference championship game 12 times. That's twice as many as the next closest team, Texas. Oklahoma has, they won 10 Big 12 championships with Bob Stoops as head coach, and Lincoln Riley's never lost the Big 12 championship. So how do you pick against them? I understand this is not what Iowa State fans want to hear, but like, till you knock them off, it's their conference. Eric Ram says, go Bucks. Trying to see if there's anything else we need to get in here. This might be a short one, man. See what your questions are like. If y'all got any good questions. A&M is officially out of it with Florida choking at home as the 21-point favorite. I think so, but apparently I'm not the person that makes that decision. So we'll see, man. I wouldn't put ampersand U in there. Then again, I also think that, putting Coastal Carolina in there is not that big a deal. They're undefeated. I mean, if Clemson beats Notre Dame, I'd knock both the ACC guys out, but that's just me. Doc Winston, Boogie says, stay low, boys. Keep those feet moving. Love Friday Night Lights, man. Let's see what he said. Man, I guess there were people in here that didn't think I was going to show up. There was no reason to be here until the rankings were up, and they were late putting them up by like 5 minutes. Chill. Any chance LSU reconsiders their bowl ban? No, man. No. You want to get out of here. Like, that was your bowl game. Congratulations going into the swamp, getting a victory. 3-5 LSU versus 3-5 Rutgers. Let's see. What do you think about Coach Mullen's shot at Ohio State? He's trying to protect his team. I mean, they lost. I said this last night on ESPN Radio doing game night with Jeff Dickerson. Dan Mullen took exactly the wrong take. Okay? You lose, you don't play in a playoff. We don't have that anymore. I hate that. In a 14 playoff, we can't have a 2-loss team in there. And yet, we're going to contemplate a conference champion because conference championships are part of the criteria. But if USC were to win and they're undefeated, I wouldn't have a problem with the Pac-12 champion going into the playoff and leaving the Big 12 champion out. I think the conference championships matter, especially in this year where Notre Dame decided to join up with the ACC. So we'll see, man. I mean, I think that whoever gets the 4 spot's going to get boat raced by Alabama, though. Like, just destroyed because Alabama's a juggernaut. I picked them in January. I knew they were going to be good, but I didn't think they were going to be this good, especially after giving up all the points to Ole Miss and 647 yards of offense. I'm interested to see what the committee seems to think about that, though, because they have demonstrated they value Ohio State, they value Clemson, they value Notre Dame, and they value Alabama. So, Clemson beats Notre Dame, they'll probably just flip 2 and 3. And Ohio State probably gets that 4 spot. And then we got a Sugar Bowl with Alabama and Ohio State. Though I would really love it if, for whatever reason, we had Alabama versus Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl, because nothing makes me smile more than Yankees coming down to New Orleans in the South, seeing how they really get down and seeing how much they really don't like the Irish. And I would get the Rose Bowl featuring Ohio State and Dabo Swinney, which is awesome because Dabo Swinney is talking mad noise about Ohio State too. And we can take that all the way back to Woody Hayes and punching dude in the throat, who was a Clemson player. It's good. Plus, Dabo has owned Ohio State. It's there, right? And Ohio State should have won that game last year. You could throw it on the incompletion that probably should have been a fumble. Chris Olave slipping in the end zone. There's a lot of different ways you could go with this. But the fact of the matter is, Clemson won the game. Ohio State wants Clemson in the worst way, and I want that for Ohio State. I want Clemson to want Ohio State because that's what college football is awesome for. It's awesome. I can't wait I really want that to happen. Looking for more questions. Let's see. Notre Dame can hang with any team this year. Tell it to Louisville. Tell it to Louisville. Louisville. A baseball game against that trash football team. Stop it. Let's see. Is Brees better than Etienne? Going into this year, I would have told you no. Based on what we've seen, got to say yes, man. Travis Etienne had 18 yards rushing, or 28 yards rushing on 18 attempts against Notre Dame. I like to think that Iowa State could probably run the ball against anybody, and Brees Hall is a big reason as to why. Who is the best offense that Bama has faced? That could be only wrenching their plans. Still think they are number one, but they might not be prepared. The best offense they faced was Ole Miss. Okay? And Lane Kiffin can score on anybody, right? But I also think that you don't have the offense if you're Notre Dame to play with Alabama's defense. And because they can, if you get into a shootout with them, they'll win. Like, that's something you couldn't say about Alabama until Tua Tagovailoa ascended to that quarterback position. I guess you could say a little bit with Blake Sims, a little bit, when they decided to modernize the offense and stop playing murder ball. But Alabama being able to score 45, 50 a game, good night. Like, they've always been able to recruit defensively. They've always been able to fix their defense. They've always been able to lock people up. Now they can score 50 on you? Like, that's it, man. That's reaching that upper level where your mind, body, and soul must be one. Like, that's what that is. That is Brawley with the blonde hair just growing all the way back. That is Super Saiyan Blue, dog. Like, ain't nobody coming near Alabama this year. It's fun, though. Let's see. Max Johnson is going to be the next Joe Burrow. No, the hell he is not. No, he's not, dog. Enjoy the win. Stop that. Let me see. Let's see what else got in here. Florida season is over regardless. I mean, they might make the Orange Bowl. It'd be them or A&M, I think. Perhaps. So, yeah. I mean, it's there. What happens if Florida beats Alabama? Then Alabama gets in. Florida won't. And we're going to have mass chaos. Like, I was actually thinking about this. Like, what happens? The carnage happens if Northwestern beats Ohio State. Like, think about that. Think about Northwestern beats Ohio State, Florida beats Alabama, and Clemson beats Notre Dame. You could end up with Clemson at number 1, Notre Dame at number 2, Alabama at number 3, and then you have decisions to make, right? Do you put in a 1-loss Northwestern to beat what you thought was the 4th best team in the country? Do you put in a 2-loss Florida against the number 1 team, unanimous number 1 team in the country? Do you put in A&M because they only lost to Alabama, but Florida beat Alabama? Like, do you put in the Pac-12 champ who's 6-0? Like, there's decisions to be made here, man. Like, so carnage for me is Northwestern beats Ohio State, Florida beats Alabama, Clemson beats Notre Dame. Then it all gets thrown out. It gets torn up and thrown asunder. Goodness me. Yeah, that could be a lot of fun. Could be a lot of fun. Texas A&M has better resume than Clemson. Clemson ain't beat nobody. Clemson's only losses to an undefeated Notre Dame. Texas A&M's only losses to an undefeated Alabama. Haven't actually seen Alabama get tested by anybody other than Ole Miss. I mean, you can make that argument if you want to, but that's not what what Clemson is. Excuse me, that's not what the committee is saying. The committee is saying they value Clemson. They seem like, at least the Associated Press poll seems to value Texas A&M. We'll see if the playoff rankings value Texas A&M, because they're right there at 5. And, you hand Clemson an L here, maybe ampersand U sneaks in there just based on the rankings. Because that's what you have to really look at when you're evaluating who gets into the playoff. How much further away are you from that 4th spot than anybody else? And A&M is right there hovering. A&M fans are going to start stumping hard for their team to get in the playoff because they're right there. They ought to be the biggest Notre Dame fans in the world next weekend. Because if you're just judging by the distance, Cincinnati's also there. So they're hoping that A&M loses, as does perhaps a Clemson, right? Maybe they get in. There's a lot there. There's a lot to get in. The Bearcats can get in, I think, if Northwestern beats Ohio State, if Florida beats Alabama, if Notre Dame beats Clemson. They're in. But that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a ton, right? And at that point, you might actually be talking about Coastal Carolina, who has more ranked victories than Cincinnati. Think about that. Coastal Carolina beat a ranked ULL, beat a ranked BYU, and now has an opportunity to beat a ranked ULL once again. Cincinnati's first opportunity to beat a ranked opponent, I think outside of like Southern Methodist, I want to check the math on this, would be Tulsa. And depending on how you feel about Tulsa, and it seems like the AP voters don't feel that great about Tulsa, that might actually hurt Cincinnati. Like that's a really interesting place to be, I think. Because if I'm Cincinnati, I'm thinking, are you going to penalize us for not having played somebody? Well, we're penalizing USC for not having played somebody, and they play in, quote-unquote, a Power 5 league. Go ahead and take a look at what's going on here with Cincinnati and Tulsa, man. Because, make sure I get Cincinnati's schedule correct. It's going to take me a minute to pull this up. Give me a second. Let's see. Cincinnati. Cincinnati played a ranked opponent. Doesn't look like not at all. No. None of their opponents are ranked. None of them. So, man, we'll see. Goodness me. All right. There we go. Let's see what else we got in here. Yeah, for the committee, they're hoping that Ohio State wins, that Clemson wins, and that Alabama wins, and then they get to keep their 4 the same. I agree with Farino on that. What we got in here? Wait a second. Did Gus Malzahn just get fired? Gus Malzahn just get fired? Did that happen? Gus Malzahn got fired. Holy smokes. Wow. Gus Malzahn got fired. Wow. Sunday afternoon, the Tigers parted ways with their longtime head coach, Gus Malzahn. Goodness me. Wow. Kevin Steele is going to run the team. Oh, man. Malzahn might end up at Illinois or Arizona. Golly. Malzahn is out. That's wild. Like he was dancing after getting a win last night. Wow. Okay, let's go do some more digging on this. This is what I like, man. Talking about breaking news. I guess they expected him to win what? The SEC title? Golly. He's 0-4 against Alabama in Tuscaloosa and 0-4 against Georgia in Athens. 0-4 against LSU in Baton Rouge. Wow. That's whoa. Okay. $21.45 million buyout for him. That's stupid. Nick Saban and Gus Malzahn coexisted for 8 years, which is the longest for Alabama and Auburn. Football coaches said Paul Bryant and Ralph Jordan. That's wow. So now I gotta be able. I gotta wonder if Texas starts to think about Tom Herman yet again. Would you bring in a Gus Malzahn? What other jobs might come available if they know they can get Gus Malzahn? And the way that we've seen these athletic directors want to move, like Blake Anderson had resigned, and hours later it felt like Butch Jones was in the seat, right? It's the people are trying to move really quickly on these issues. Like South Carolina went after Shane Beamer just as soon as they found out Billy Napier didn't want the job. And that's the other thing. Who wants the job at Auburn? Is it Billy Napier, right? At ULL? Is it Jamie Chadwell at Coastal Carolina? Is it Lance Leipold at Buffalo? Is it Clark Lee at Notre Dame? Like, there's a lot of guys that could go into this job and get a win. But I know what y'all are thinking because y'all are my people, and I'm going to just put that in there. What y'all are thinking is that you need the burner phone. You need the burner phone in Auburn, Alabama. That's what you need. You need Mr. Escort himself. You need Hugh Freeze down at Auburn. Get fired up about that. Hugh Freeze, who says, I'm going to stay at Liberty. I like being at Liberty. Now that the Auburn job is open, is that how you really feel? Would you like to come back down to the SEC West, baby? Do you want these problems once again? Do you want them? This time, it's like my man told Lane Kiffin on the tarmac when he took the Ole Miss job. Get yourself a burner phone, all right? Get yourself a burner phone. Do you look at Barry Odom, defense coordinator at Arkansas? Do you just make Kevin Steele the head coach? Like, there's lots to unpack here. Wow. This could be fun. Josh Heupel would be an interesting hire at Auburn. Coming out of Central Florida. What he did at Missouri. Won a national championship at Oklahoma. The last one. Torrance Marshall found out Chris Winkie won the Heisman. Said, I came to get my boys Heisman back. Yo! Like, there's some moves to be made here, man. There's some moves to be made here. Gus Malzahn is also going to be one coveted offensive coordinator. Because if he doesn't get a head coaching job, somebody's willing to fire their head coach or their offensive coordinator to go get Gus Malzahn. You know that, right? Chad Morris just got that offensive coordinator job, too. He just got it, man. He's going to I wouldn't be surprised to find out he moves back to Dallas or Springdale and just starts driving over to see his kid play football for the next 3 years. That's going to be interesting, man. Wow. Okay. Do you look at Alex Grinch, defense coordinator at Oklahoma? Just throwing it out there. Or what other guys would you be looking at around here? I feel like we can go through it, like Joe Moorhead at Oregon, though I think getting him back in the Big Ten would be interesting. Him being the head coach at Illinois would be interesting. Do you look at Graham Harrell at USC? That's interesting. I like that. Bring the air raid into Auburn. Somebody that's going to match up with Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin. And, Steve Sarkisian for that matter. Texas A&M for that matter. And Jimbo Fisher. Do you take a look at Joe Brady and say, hey, can we get you out of the NFL and bring you into Auburn and be our next young and up-and-coming offensive genius? Is that what you do? Do you look at Todd Monken over at Georgia and say, hey, we remember you were once pretty good at this. I know the Southern Miss thing didn't go the way you wanted to, but want to give it another go, right? Do you look at Dan Lanning, defense coordinator at Georgia, or Glenn Schulman, the linebackers coach at Georgia? There's lots of places to look around here. You know who else is in there over there? Charlie Strong is a staffer at Alabama right now. It's a short drive. Give me the first black head coach in Auburn history. Go ahead, give it to me. Give it to me. Let Charlie Strong be 2-time, first time black head coach at 2 major universities. Bring it to me. Nah, man, that's wild. That's really interesting. Man, and at a time when we've seen we've seen 3 out of the last 4 jobs. Yeah. In this week, Kevin Sumlin, Derek Mason, and Lovie Smith have all been fired. Ooh. Yeah, this is gonna be fun, man. This is gonna be fun. I'm trying to think. Steve Sarkisian wouldn't take that job, would he? At Auburn? I don't think so. Huh. Wow, that's interesting. All right. That, I think, is going to do it for me. I'll have more things to say about this later in the afternoon. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed the show. Try to do about a half an hour about the rankings, take some questions in the mailbag, and we'll see what happens there. Mike Stoops to Auburn, of course. If you like the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Upload video every single day, several times a day. I get tongue-tied, tongue-twisted because I'm having so much fun over here, and I appreciate all of y'all for coming through and joining on this very cool moment where we get to talk about, well, our time, college football. All right, I will catch y'all on the flip side. Deuces.